Is on UNLV's short list of coaches that they're looking at to go get. But
we have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite.
From behind a lot this year.
South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day. Plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Good morning, welcome in. It is Sports by the Book at the South Point studio. I'm Jeff, she's Alex, he's Kenny. We got black and white in the middle. We're good to go here on a Tuesday, which is, even though the real tournament starts Thursday, we do have tournament games tonight, and we'll break them down momentarily. Also, the NIT gets underway, which will be the Kenny White Overfest that we will get to in a little bit, but we will we'll have that. And also, does this work as the same as when a tree falls in the forest but no one is there? Does it make a sound? That's what baseball was, unless if you were in attendance in Tokyo. Morning for us, at night there. Sellout credit to Tokyo Dome, but for 3 a.m. with us. Even though, Alex, you said you were awake for that game.
I was awake. I did see a little bit of the baseball game, Dodgers and Cubs. It did stay under that total.
1-0 in the baseball season.
There it is. Right. Stop it now. It's over. Dodgers win 4-1, by the way. Easy under. The 8.5 was really not a sweat at all. Imanaga looked really good over 4 innings, 4 no-hit innings before being taken out. Kind of still glorified spring training. Yamamoto pitched well as well. And the Dodgers are 1-0. On their way to going over 104.5 wins on the regular season with a 1-0 start, even without Mookie Betts, who was sick yesterday. So don't know if Mookie will play tonight or not.
Oh, he's back in the U.S.
They didn't even bring him. They didn't even.
I think he went.
They didn't even let him stay.
So they said there, and they said, "Go."
All right, so
get healthy.
So Mookie Betts will not play tonight. That's why you saw Rojas at shortstop a night ago for the Dodgers. I didn't even see that. Thank you, Kenny.
Is Ohtani going to pitch this year? Because if he does, and he's in the rotation,
he'll pitch. That they're hoping he pitches, but who knows when that day will be.
104.5's a little too low, I think, for this team. I don't know how they can't win 120 games.
Well, we had the that would be an MLB record if they got there. Of course, the split of the Dodgers with as high of a win total as you ever see going into the season, and then the White Sox, who are 53.5, and I don't even think they're going to get there. Even the 10-win improvement doesn't even get them any over on that. All right, let's get to it, guys. Ryan, take the whole bracket. We got, of course, the beginning of the NCAA tournament here today. The whole field of 68. We know there's the whole bracket, and we will begin all the way at that top left corner. We know Auburn's going to be in Lexington on Thursday afternoon. Which mediocre team, sorry guys, we're going to be real here. Which mediocre team will they see? This is, as at least to me on paper, at least going through numbers, and I know Ken Palm does not agree with me on this because, surprisingly enough, the last time we had the only time we've had a 2 sub-300 Ken Palm matchup in this game before. Well, not even today because Alabama State's 273. The only other time we had a 2 sub-300 Ken Palm matchup was Fairleigh Dickinson 2 years ago. We know what happened in the game after that. This is as bad of a matchup as I can remember, though, in this game, because I felt like those two teams, they played Texas Southern, were a little bit better than this. Alabama State was the 5 in the SWAC. They win the SWAC tournament, Alex. St. Francis was the 3 in the NEC. They were gigantic underdogs against Central Connecticut State. And despite shooting under 35% from the field, under 30% from 3, and under 60% from the line in that game, St. Francis still managed to win on the road. Alabama State is 4 right now in this one, with a total that has been bet down to 138.5.
Just going off of power ratings, I think that number is correct with Alabama State being a 4-point favorite. I know you can say, though, why is Alabama State favored over anybody, really? And I can understand that argument. But they are the better defense, and they do take care of the ball. So if I were to play it, I would lean to the favorite in this one. Total 138.5. I think that's just right. I'm close to 140, so not enough to jump on an over here between these two. Both struggled to score. So no definite play for me, but I would lean Alabama State to get it done.
Yeah, amazing. 10-17, and you know what? This is all about peaking at the right time and getting hot. St. Francis wins 6 straight games to get to the NCAA tournament. Their last 3 regular season and then 3 in the tournament. We looked this over yesterday, the two coaches, and I didn't really know much about them, but just analyzing. I think Tony Madlock is a far better coach, superior to Robbie Kimmel. Kimmel's been there 13 years and has done absolutely nothing with the program. This is the only thing they've done. So I felt that I don't have a big difference in the opening line, but I thought this is definitely an in-game situation. Let St. Francis get off to a 10-2 lead. And the coaching will take over, and Madlock will outcoach Kimmel, and his team's the better team anyway, and they'll win the basketball game. So I'm looking in game here, Jeff.
I think that's the right strategy with these 16 playing games for the most part. Now, granted, when we talk about American and Mount St. Mary's tomorrow, by the way, real quick, if you want full regional previews, they are available right now on our Sports by the Book YouTube page. I was able to talk to Jim Root about the West, Sean Green of Sports Gambling Podcast, did the South and the East, and then Paul Stone, one of our favorites, did the Midwest. So we have all those available right now on the Sports by the Book YouTube page. I said this when we talked about the South yesterday, with just the lack of quality in these 16 games usually. But in-game is a great way to do this, Kenny. I'm 100% with you, especially if we get, especially with this total, too, where it's gone down 2 points already. And I think that's correctly so, because neither of these offenses are explosive, to put it politely. If we get like some electric shooting start, I'm going to come in under on a higher number. Now, of course, the always with full game unders, at least in games like this. There's always the concern of the foul fest at the end, but sometimes you just got to trust what you're seeing here. St. Francis, by the way, this year is the 35th luckiest team in college basketball, which if you're 311th in KenPom and you're 35th in luck, you're really a bad basketball team. It is miraculous that they are here, which I kind of agree with both of you. Alabama State should win this game, but the other counter to that is, who the hell is Alabama State to be favored by 4 against anybody? Right. So I'm with you, Kenny. This is the premium in-game game. I'll stay off of it pre-flop, especially since that total's been banged down 2 points. I
always say don't lay points with a bad team. They'll be happy to just win the game if they can. But I think in-game's the best way to go, because I really feel like coaching is such a big part of this. And I just think Madlock, what I've seen, he's improved this program in 2 years, where Kimmel's just been, every year it's, below 500 basically for his team. In 12 years, you think you would have had 1 or 2 good teams. He hasn't had any.
I will say that is a very difficult place to win in tiny Latrobe, Pennsylvania. But again, an NEC that, funny enough, the NEC that existed just 5 years ago, there are 5 teams in the NCAA tournament this year, as crazy as that seems, because they've won other leagues across college basketball. So maybe the NEC is not as bad as we think, but it might have been this year. All right, game 2. Throw the controversy aside. North Carolina is here. We'll deal with it, and they are a favorite, and it's toggled a little bit. We saw as well, obviously open 4, got as high as 5. Now we're back at 4.5, Alex, with a total of 142.5 on this one. And you know what? This is all going to come down to me on how San Diego State's defense holds up against UNC's offense, because we know San Diego State's offense is going to struggle one way or another here tonight.
And usually I am on the defensive team, right? But in this matchup, I love North Carolina. I laid the 4 last night. I really think that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I haven't really liked this Aztecs team all year long. They're out of the top 100 offensively efficiency on KenPom, so I don't expect them to get much done here, even though North Carolina has struggled defensively, but they have been playing better down the stretch. So I'm going to trust them, and I don't like the matchup for SDSU. So they kind of got snuck into this spot with their big wins over Houston and Creighton, non-con, at the beginning of the year, kind of fallen off since then. And we've seen them against matchups like North Carolina, who want to run, Gonzaga, Oregon, New Mexico. They really struggled against those teams. So I think it's a bad matchup for SDSU. I like North Carolina. And we always know there's always one team in this first round that can win a game or two.
Yeah, I'm hoping that North Carolina's hearing it from everybody. They shouldn't be in the tournament and only got in because they're AD was the head of the committee. I made North Carolina 8. I did lay 4 as well. I laid that on Sunday night. And, I'll take anything in my advantage. And I think that one fact is I've seen it play out year in and year out. The teams that get in at the end that everybody says shouldn't have been in always play well because they're hearing about it so much.
Kenny, you're spot on there, because this is always it's not a proven theory, but it sure as heck seems like the team that everyone yells about the most, except for last year where everyone yelled about Virginia and they threw out one of the most epic stink bombs you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Usually that team everyone yells about wins this playing game and is either live or wins against the 6 or the 5 or whatever seed they happen to be in around the 64. I like Carolina to win tonight. I'm just not comfortable laying any sort of points with them. This is one of those where I would almost tie UNC with someone else, whether it's someone in the NIT tonight, whether it's, for me, American University tomorrow night, who I like to win outright against Mount St. Mary's. I just don't trust them to cover 4.5. Also, too, that total of 142.5 is super interesting because, Kenny, I want to go back to something you said last week. With teams that played a lot slower in conference play than they did in non-con. And North Carolina, you said last week, was one of the prime examples of that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because we know San Diego State wants to do anything but run. I wonder if this game is a pretty significant under if San Diego State is able to control tempo and North Carolina is content to slow it down like they did in conference play, Kenny.
And I think I cashed 3 bets. I can't remember if the Duke game went under. It fell 145. I don't recall what that total was, but I know I bet Notre Dame. The Notre Dame game under, it went under easy, and I bet the Wake Forest game under, it went under easy. So, yeah, they're not playing as fast. We know how San Diego State plays. They're a slow down team. They take their time on offense, and their defense is so good they hold teams down. So my total again, when I made my total on those other games, Notre Dame and Wake Forest, they were right on the number. But it's one of those things where it's hard to factor in when you know they're playing much slower now than what they were playing before. So I just bet them, and I'll bet this game under as well, Jeff.
Very interested to see what we get tonight. Again, I think there is a distinct coaching advantage for San Diego State in this game. Dutcher, I will take over Hubert Davis every time. But again, talent-wise, there's never been an argument of North Carolina's talent. It's just been a matter of putting it together throughout the year, and we'll see how it plays out.
We know one thing. Even if North Carolina wanted to run, San Diego State will not allow you to. They get back in transition.
They are great transition defense. That's 100% true. We'll have the games tomorrow on tomorrow morning's show. Also, tomorrow morning, we'll make sure we get those early games because Alex and I will be here at 10 a.m. like we always are throughout the week. So we'll make sure we get all the early games as well before we're on the air on Thursday. All right, let's shift gears real quick. A little bit later in the show, we'll look at the odds to win each region here at the South Point. We'll do that a little later in the show, so stay tuned for that. But I want to get to some individual games in the NIT tonight. Kenny, I want to start with you because these totals for these NIT games, just eyeballing them from where they opened across town to where they are currently. This first game, Kent State and St. Bonaventure opened at some places at 130.5. Right now we're at 135.5 is the most common number on this game. And this is a theme, legitimate. The smallest mover on these NIT games tonight is 4 points on the total. That's the smallest mover. What do we have on this one, though? Kent and St. Bonaventure now up to 135.5 on the total. Bonnie's at home 4.5-point favorites.
One of the two games I did not bet over. This was one. I only made it 132, made St. Bonnie 6 in the game, so I passed. And yeah, it's these have gone sky high. And why? Because this is the NIT. It's not the NCAA tournament. These teams are like, hey, let's go have fun. And these games end up being more up-tempo and more about offense than it is on defense. They will play defense in the second half. It becomes a little bit more like an NBA game where maybe the game doesn't matter to the last 5 minutes of the game. So I just couldn't go over in this one. Both teams have played very slow during the regular season, and both these teams have been far better on the defensive end than they on the offensive end. So it would be a classic under bet for me during the regular season. But I'm glad my number's right on because, again, I think this will just, these are just fun games to play for these kids.
So let me just ask and clarify for anybody who has been following, because we did talk about taking 5 points off of our totals in the conference tournament game. So not for the NIT, clearly. What about NCAA? Are you doing it for your totals there?
No, I'm not. I went back and I looked at the first round. There's so much discrepancy and that's so unknown.
Sure.
Where in the conference, you know each other so well that when you play in the conference tournament, you know every move the other guy has. This is something you really don't know. So, and you get so much frantic fouling at the end of these games. You could get 20 points in a minute.
Well, that's always the big concern where, like, dogs that are anywhere from, at least for me in the NCAA tournament, unless if the game is a total destruction or the dog is easily in the number.
Yeah.
Dogs from 6.5 to even all the way to about 11.5 sometimes sneak in that back door because they foul much more than they would normally do.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was 3 years or a few years ago when Yale played LSU in a 3-14 game. Yale was getting 8.5, and they were down basically 16 the whole game and covered because they kept making threes at the end and they kept fouling.
Right.
So, and that happens with totals as well. You can see you have a dead under game, and then all of a sudden, and this happened in conference tournaments as well, you see 25 points in the last 80 seconds, and it's like, wait a second, how did my total lose? But that's how it can go in these conference tournaments and now in the NCAA tournament.
And betting in game, momentum is everything in these games. And closing out, you think, hey, they're up 12, they're going to win. But closing out the game is the hardest thing to do. They were playing their game. It's like an NFL defense going to prevent defense in the end of the game. Why do you do that? Because you're preventing yourself from winning, basically. And the college basketball, NBA is the same way. Closing out games is tough. So always, make sure that you got a team that can come back and you can get a lot of points. Watch when they start fouling intentionally. If they start fouling around the 2-minute mark intentionally, oh boy, you could get 25, 30 points in that last 2 minutes. Yeah. Sometimes you may not. If the team doesn't hit their threes or hit their baskets, at 40 seconds to go, they just may throw in the towel at that point. But if they start hitting shots, you can get a ton of points. So watch that point of the game, how much time's left when they start fouling.
Let's go to game 2. Georgia Tech, who we saw play Duke relatively tough in the ACC tournament, welcomes Jacksonville State out of the CUSA. Alex 6, 141.5 total, up from other shops that opened it a little bit earlier, 138.5. So actually, this is actually the lowest move, only 3-point move on this total here.
And I jumped in at 140 going over this total. We know that Georgia Tech wants to play pretty fast and pretty good shooting team on the other side with Jacksonville State, especially from 3. They can have a pretty good percentage there, about 34%. So I do expect them to keep in this game with Georgia Tech and get us over that total.
Yeah, I went over here. My numbers dictated the over more than anything. I'm looking at both these teams. Jacksonville State wants to play slow, and that's the only thing that scares me because I say these are fun games, but for a Jacksonville State to play an ACC team, they're going to be fired up. This is also Alabama and Georgia kind of state rivalries they've had for years, and it's just like a Super Bowl game for Jacksonville State. So if they play their game, this total might be close. But if Georgia Tech plays free and easy, doesn't play a lot of defense, I think I can get this one over the total. And you're right, this one hasn't moved a lot. It hasn't one of my bigger movers, but it did move a little. As Alex went over 140.5, that's exactly what I went over.
Wouldn't be shocked if Jacksonville State wins this game outright, honestly, even though it is a road game. But again, these are not normal crowds at the NIT, especially with these power schools hosting. So I wouldn't be shocked if Jacksonville State pulls this outright upset on top of it as well.
Georgia Tech's coming off the Duke game where they were up 17 or something in the first half, and then Cooper Flagg gets hurt, and you think, oh my gosh, Georgia Tech's going to win this game, and they fell behind, and the Duke came out, scored the first 10 of the second half, and it was a battle. Georgia Tech's good. Then mentioning they beat Louisville and Clemson. They're the only team in the league that beat both of those, the number 2 and 3 team, and they did fight against Duke strong, so they have talent. But this could be a flat spot coming off that 100%. Game against Duke.
Let's go to the next one. Chattanooga and Middle Tennessee State. This is actually a pretty darn good game, actually, in Murfreesboro tonight. Chattanooga is a 2-point dog with the Blue Raiders of MTSU favored. Total's gone up 7. From 147.5 at openers at other shops to 154 across the board, including here at the South Point, Alex. Chattanooga is an incredible offensive team and an awful defensive team. They don't play particularly fast, but they are a great offensive team. Middle Tennessee wants to run a little bit. So even at that big number, it's hard to look at the under at 154.5.
No, I definitely wouldn't look at the under here. I did miss the best of this one, so I didn't jump in on the over. Maybe I'll wait and see if they start a little slow. But you're right, Chattanooga, very good offensively, and they're playing really good basketball. They won 12 in a row before falling to Furman. So I expect that they will still be motivated in this one and ready to take on this Middle Tennessee State team from Conference USA. So, nothing strong. I leaned to taking the points there with Chattanooga. I liked it a little bit more at 3.5 now that it's gone down to 2. So no play for me in this, and I'll see if I can jump in game.
I didn't play any sides in the NIT for the fact that motivation's everything, and I just don't know the motivation of these teams. So I think I have a better value betting over, and this is another one that I bet over, and it's a lot because of what Jeff mentioned, that Chattanooga is so good offensively, but their defense is terrible. They play no defense. And Middle Tennessee State likes to run. Chattanooga's pace isn't fast, but I believe that's a product of the schedule they played this year, because I looked at the games against teams that do run, and here's the scores of those games. 150, 177, 142, 193, 148, and 160. So they are all over this number. Hey, are you recording this, Ryan? Okay, good.
Oh, man. All right, moving along. SLU in Arkansas State. Arkansas State, who was the betting favorite to win the belt, ended up coming up one game short. St. Louis, again, a team that I thought was going to be an NCAA tournament quality team coming in to the year, did never really materialize. Arkansas State, a 5.5-point favorite in this one at Jonesboro, told us up to 154.5, Alex.
I jumped in at 152.5. Curious your thoughts, how high your total is, if you think 154.5 is still a good number. But I loved this one, especially with Arkansas State's pace and one of the best 2-point percentage in the country. So St. Louis, they're pretty even offense and defensively, but I think that they'll run too. They definitely don't try and play slow.
Both these teams run. Josh Ertz was at Indiana State last year, and they're the best over team in the country. And he brought a couple of those players with him. They just didn't mesh well early, but now I got to believe they have more continuity, and they'll continue to play that fast pace. Arkansas State runs. I just see this game going back and forth, up and down the court. What did I go over here? I went over the opening numbers on all of these games, 151.5, and you said 150. Well, I see 154.5 in the market now. Yeah. Doesn't win you the game, though. You still got to win the game.
Still got to
good
get
numbers.
Still got to get there in the second. Yeah. Still got to get to the mid-70s, at least here on both sides, more likely than not. Oklahoma State and Wichita State. This is in Stillwater. Pokes 6.5 in this one. A little surprised the Pokes actually are playing in this tournament as opposed to that Crown tournament that's going on. But here they are, one of the only Big 12 team in this field in the NIT. 155.5 your total on this one, Alex.
I really thought Oklahoma State was the right side here. I was really contemplating at 5.5, laying the points with them. But as you said, not really sure what the motivation will be. But this is a pretty talented team. I mean, I know it was in Iowa State was kind of going through their struggles and some players out. But this team did beat them 74-68. So as long as they're motivated, I think they're the far more talented team than Wichita State.
Yeah, I didn't bet this over. I wish I would have, because both these teams really love to run. It's their offenses were below average. Both were better defensively. So I stayed off it. I just went through my head. I talk about who wants the game, who's motivated to play. And sometimes you have to think about the coach. And Steve Lutz is in his very first year at Oklahoma State. So him just getting to a tournament, I know they wanted to get the NCAA tournament. He's got to be having his kids try to buy in to win every possible game they can. But I don't want to lay it again. I'm not betting these games. I'm not trying to make a side. Just something to think about, that first year coaches really want to win. I would say even the guy in the second year or third year, they still haven't been established yet, and they want to win every game they can. So it's just if you can get the kids motivated or not.
We now go to the West Coast version of this tournament. Stanford welcomes Northridge. 6.5 with the Cardinal in this one at home in Palo Alto. Total 155.5. Again, this is a total motivation thing, because as much as we like CSUN during the year, there's no 6.5s in the regular season for this game. If Stanford wants to play, Stanford wins and covers. But again, as always, motivation a big factor here in betting these pre-flop.
I think that the true power rating making a number here would be Stanford closer to 9.5. So you make a great point there that, clearly people are betting the motivation, thinking CSUN's going to come in this one more fired up than Stanford. But yeah, talent-wise and power rating-wise, it would be Stanford. Numbers moved up as well, so I couldn't jump in on the over on this one.
Yeah, much bigger game for Northridge. Stanford wishes they were in the NCAA tournament, so I think it's a flat spot. But I love it over because Northridge runs, one of the fastest teams in the country. They get up and down, and neither team really plays great transition defense. So Stanford will go out there, and Northridge will be running, and they're going to say, well, we'll run with you. We're better than you. Why wouldn't we run with you? We're out here to have some fun and score 100 tonight if we can. So, yeah, I like that one over a lot. I bet I went over 151.5 in that one. I'm sorry, 152.
And in the last one, Santa Clara hosting UC Riverside. A little bit of controversy with UC Riverside, with initially going to one tournament, now in the NIT instead. Now they go to Santa Clara here tonight to take on the Broncos. 9.5 total, 156 now on this one, Alex.
Geez, I did jump in on this one, so I did bet 3 of all of these overs. I think you bet all but 2, but this is one that I really liked over as well. Both very, very high or fast paced, especially Santa Clara, and then Riverside much better offensively than defensively. So I think you're still good at that 156, if I'm being honest. How high is your total?
162.5. That's Santa Clara plays fast. Santa Clara's offense is really good. They played. This is the only matchup from the beginning of the year of any of the games for NCAA and NITs so far that I found. 96-54. Santa Clara won at home. That game came 150 in a regular season game early in the year, November 17th. But Santa Clara was able to put up 96 that day early in the season. I think they'll put up a big number again. I think they get to 90 because of how the game's going to be played. So there's definitely that embarrassment factor and revenge factor, I think, a little bit for Northridge from that first contest. They've improved a lot since that time, and I'm sure they want to show it. They're 18-11 ATS, Riverside is. So they've had a good year covering. They're 20-10 to the over. That helps.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty good year if you're betting that side of it for sure. All right, I want to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll look at some regional prices. We'll look at the one game in Major League Baseball overnight, and we'll see where else we go. We're live here on a Tuesday afternoon right here, Sports by the Book, here at the South Point studio.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Halfway home here on Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. Kenny White's on the far side of the desk right now. Got bracket in hand right now for Kenny White here on a Tuesday. Shout out to the chat as always. SF Niners on North Carolina tonight. Joey B is wrecking havoc in the chat. Do I see Ryan? Yep. Wrecking havoc. Oh, Joey B, our good friend. Colorado State, Memphis. Joey B's a Colorado State guy, as we know. Even without Hunter for Memphis, Tyrese Hunter probably will not be able to go for the Tigers in that game. Is Memphis too athletic for Colorado State? Here's all I'll say on this game, because I think I know which way I'm going to go here. And I kind of touched on it in the preview for the West region, again available now, Sports by the Book on YouTube. There's always one of these teams that everyone picks the quote-unquote seed upset. Obviously, from a betting perspective, Colorado State is favored against Memphis as the 12 seed. It's been a little bit since we've seen a 12 favored over a 5. Between UC San Diego, Colorado State, and Drake, one of them is losing comfortably and not covering. I wonder if Colorado State ends up being the one who actually gets upset by the betting standards, where we've gone a little bit too far the other way on this. But it is also Penny Hardaway and Nico Medved that is a much better coach than Penny. So curious to see how that plays. That's a Friday game, by the way, in Seattle. So we got a few more days until that game tips off.
I love Colorado State. Honestly, I made them a lot higher than what you have to lay in this game against Memphis. I don't really trust Memphis, and the American League was really down. So I like the way this team is playing. They won 10 in a row. They were winning by an average of 16 points. So I really think they started to figure some things out. So tread lightly with the Mountain West, as we know how they've done in this tournament. But that is one of 2 teams. That's a tease that I do like to move on to the round of 32.
I didn't play the game. I think when I gave you sheets yesterday, Alex, of mine, I think I gave you 2 of one day, because I had 2 of Friday and this one.
How's this?
Maybe. Might be the one. I didn't bet that game at all, though. I was just looking at the bets that I made for Friday, and I only bet totals. I didn't bet any sides. I bet all totals on Thursday and Friday.
Well, Joey B set a line that
Shocking.
already went over.
What, pages of notes in front of Kenny? 9.5. Yeah, we're what 9.
Whew.
Terrible line. But that's Joey B Sportsbook. You set bad lines, and if there was actual money to be involved, we'd be as rich as this property. So, but shout out to our guy. Shout out to Joey B on that one. All right. Real quick. These are available right now, all the odds to win their specific regions. Just eyeballing some quick prices right out of the gate that at least stand out to me. The only one seed you don't have to lay a price with is Houston. They're plus 130 to win their region. Duke is minus 140. Auburn is a flat minus 110. Same with Florida at minus 110. I'll just ask you guys this real quick, just as an overarching theme of this, because this feels to be the theme that has been predominantly out there since the bracket was revealed about 2 days ago now. Is Houston being overlooked here?
Yes.
Just because of the round of 32 matchup that could be Gonzaga, where Ken Palm will probably only have that game Houston 1 or 2. I think we're underrating the Cougars coming into this tournament because of the potential of, hey, they might not be a big favorite in round 2, even though if we've watched Gonzaga all year, this is not the same Zag team we've become accustomed to, Alex.
Well, I mean, I still think that would be a close matchup, and I would be a little bit worried there. But Houston is so good. This is not the same Houston team that struggled offensively, right? They're a really good shooting team now, too. And I love the fact that now they have won 13 in a row. They win the Big 12 Conference Championship, both regular season and the conference tournament there. So I like how Calvin Sampson's team is playing, and I think he's a really good coach. So yeah, I really like Houston. That's the first one that caught my eye with the region because you are getting plus money for Houston to come out of that region.
Still think in a rollover parlay, you're going to get much higher odds. And surprisingly, I love the Zags, but I would have Houston about 5 over the Zags in that game. And then Houston gets a break by playing Clemson or Purdue. It doesn't matter. They're both about the same. I think Clemson could be a 10-point favorite in that game. And then they're going to be 4.5 over Tennessee in the championship game to win it all. So plus 130 is not a bad price, but I think if you parlayed the 3 games, you'll come out much, much higher.
Yeah, it's very interesting that there's a real chance that Houston could be a smaller favorite in round 2 than they are in the Elite 8.
Yeah.
That is very much in play, especially if it is not Tennessee out of the bottom of the bracket. Wouldn't shock me one bit, even if it's Kentucky. I would imagine that Houston will come a bigger favorite against Kentucky than they would Gonzaga. Plus 130 feels like a good price. Down the board real quick, and we'll look through these as we get through the next few days. I'll just say this. This is a bracket, at least how I filled it out so far. My final 4 is 2 2s and 2 1s. I expect a lot of chalk here. I don't see a blow-up bracket per se like we normally do. Sure, there's first-round upsets. There always is. There's going to be a double-digit or 2 that make it to the second weekend. But the top of the country this year is so much better than it usually is. And as good as the 3 seeds, the 4 seeds, the 5s and the 6s are this year, I just think the strength of the top of the country this year is at a different level than it's been over the past few years. And that's why, based off these numbers, the highest number I'd even consider on anyone to win a region is Michigan State at plus 475. That's just how tough the top of the fields are this year. And that's a 2 seed. That's a 2 seed I just mentioned. So there really is not a lot of value down the board on these future odds to win these regions. And as Kenny said, you might just get better prices rolling over some of these bigger prices anyway.
The only thing that does scare me is last Thursday in those conference tournament games, OptiStats tweeted that it was the lowest average margin of victory, 7.3, college basketball day in general. Highest percent of games decided by single digits, highest percent of games decided by 5 or less out of any day in the last 40 years, with at least 45 games between 2 Division I teams. So that made me think that this bracket was more wide open than ever, especially because those were the Power 4 conferences going, right? And these upsets happening. So I do agree with you with the top 4, top 6, that they are, a step above everybody, but I still think we're going to see quite a few upsets on the way.
Jeff brings up, a point that I don't think I've seen this talented of teams at the top. I don't think I've had teams rated as high as I have Duke and Auburn right now, and Houston even. Those teams are just rated so high. I don't recall that. I'm not sure why. And did everything just fall right for those teams and they have the right schedule and they just played very consistent basketball? And now maybe they may be overrated. I don't know, because they are rated so high, all these teams. In these games, you get upsets. They're going to happen because, like I said, closing out a game is hard to do. And even though you're the best team, it's hard to close a game out. And because if you lose, you're going home, pressure sets in. And then the three-pointer's the great equalizer. Had a good conversation with a guy that just walked by me and he saw me studying. And I got a question for you. I'm looking at Michigan and UC San Diego. How can Michigan just be 2.5? UC San Diego has nobody over 6'7", and Michigan's got two guys that are 7'1". The size difference alone is a huge factor, and the guy was right, and I didn't really kind of overlook that myself. But I said to him, "Hey, UC San Diego shoots the three far better." And that's the great equalizer in these games. If you hit your threes, you go 10 for 20 from three-point range, and you're the underdog, you got a good chance to hang around and win.
Well, and one other note on that game real quick, which is, by the way, a Thursday game with UC San Diego and Michigan. UC San Diego is the second best team in the country at forcing turnovers. They're also the seventh best team in the country in not turning it over.
Yeah.
So they protect the basketball. Michigan, on the other hand, is a number that it should not be possible for a power conference team. They are 328th in the country in turning it over. That should not be possible for a power conference team.
Yeah.
So that's another, again, UC San Diego can be one of the darlings. Them, Drake, Colorado State, I think are the quote-unquote darling teams that a lot of people are going to attach themselves to this week. I think UC San Diego is the best of those three personally. So, been on Alex knows I've been on the Tritons now for about 3 months.
Yes.
So no backing down now, even though I don't love this matchup because of the size with Michigan. By the way, real quick, I just wanted to have fun with numbers with Ken Palm real quick. And this kind of backs your point that you just said, Kenny, of how ridiculously high some of these top teams have to be rated in your power ratings. UConn's championship team of 2023, not last year, 2023, ended up with a net rating on Ken Palm of 29.86. They were the number one team by the end. That would be good for seventh in the country right now. Seventh.
Yeah.
Duke is 38.15, which is, for reference, UConn's title team last year, which some people argue is the best team in the last 20 years, was 36.43. Florida is 36.16, just slightly behind that UConn team.
I forgot about Florida. I've got them rated extremely high.
Houston's 35.44. Auburn, who's backslid a little bit, is still 35.05.
Yeah.
These teams are absurdly good. And by the way, real quick, just to throw a reference here real quick, the 2023 season, Xavier was the 15th best team in the country at the end of the year. They were plus 19.95. This is just 2 years ago, 15th best team in the country. Missouri right now, the 15th best team in the country, and they did not pick that because of the alma mater. They just happen to be 15th, 24.42.
Wow.
So even if you go down the board, so that team in Xavier that would have been 15, that was 15th 2 years ago, would be 33rd right now for this year. The quality this year is sick how good these teams are.
It
which
really
kind of
is.
backs what you said, Alex, where, all right, sure, as good as the top teams are, these middle tier teams are as good as they've ever been.
And you only get one game.
Yeah.
You don't get a series. Just one game.
What a tournament this should be, just because of the high quality. And Kenny, we brought it up. I brought it up to you guys actually after the show yesterday. You guys were working on some stuff afterwards. We had just wrapped up the previews. We're getting old school numbers with 116 games again. Like it's been a while since we've seen 26, 27-point favorites consistently. Houston and Florida are both open 30 basically, and geez, Duke could be 40 against theirs, and Auburn could be 40 against theirs. So it's fascinating to see across the board what this turned into. All right, let's hit the overnight baseball game, and then we'll look at some games for Thursday and Friday in the tournament. Don't want to leave our friends on the diamond out here. Last night, as we mentioned in the Open, the Dodgers 4-1 coasty win, easy under. The Nerfy got there to begin the season as well. So everyone was celebrating that since that's.
Yep.
I think the no run in the first inning is the squarest bet in all of sports betting at this point, but still will dabble from time to time. Tonight, we see the MLB debut of Roki Sasaki, who has been dominant in spring training, pitching in his native Japan against Justin Steele, who we know Justin Steele had a really nice year a year ago. Cubs have a good one, too, at the top with those left-handed arms. As I was saying to Ryan yesterday, I still think the Cubs were the correct favorite and should win about 90 games in that NL Central this year. But Dodgers, this has actually been bet a little bit. Dodgers are $1.44, $1.45 here in this one, $1.45 here at the South Point with a total total of 8 plus 130 on the Cubs here in this one. Kenny, are you still looking at the under even though it's gone down a half a run?
I bet it under this morning. Went under 8. And these ballparks, Tokyo, I followed this Tokyo League about 5-6 years ago, and I didn't get a chance to look yesterday. I looked back. I was trying to find my records. But, there was totals that were 5.5. The average total in that league was 6. These ballparks are just massive, and the ball doesn't carry in most of them. So this is a dome, and domes, it just doesn't carry as far as it would have being outside. You mentioned Justin Steele 2 years ago. He was in my top 15. He was just that good. He was lights out. You could bet first 5 innings under with him every single time because he wasn't giving anything up. Last year was an injury season. With him basically pitching here in the second day of the year, I got to believe he's ready. Pitch count, obviously, these guys are only going to get into the 70s. They're not going to go much more than that pitches. But yeah, I bet it under first 5 innings, under 4.5, because I don't know a lot about Sasaki. All I saw is his mechanics. I'm a big mechanics guy. I coached high school baseball for 20 years and kids for 20 years. And I had the best pitching coach there ever was in this town. And I learned so much from him. And what I learned from him, I can look at a pitcher and tell you if he's good or not by his mechanics. This guy's got great mechanics. Greg Maddux had the best mechanics in baseball. Why was he the best pitcher that ever pitched in the game? He had perfect mechanics. When you see guys falling all over the place, all over the mound, they don't have good mechanics. They're never going to have great command. Greg Maddux won so many Gold Gloves because he was under control and in command, straight to the plate. He finished in a good infielder's position and could field his position, but that made him an accurate pitcher. And this Sasaki, another guy that I can tell is going to have really good command, and he's going to be a very good pitcher for the Dodgers.
Nothing for me in this one. I would take that advice and go with the under, though.
Wonder if this is worth taking a little piece of the plus price on the Cubs here. Again, betting against the Dodgers this year could be a fool's errand. Again, 104.5 wins, 103.5 wins on the season win total coming in, and they already got one. Well on their way. Again, dominant team they will probably be in the regular season. Of course, trying to go back to back after finally busting through and winning a full season World Series for the first time since 1988.
Can we get half a run in the first 5 with the Cubs?
What's the number on that?
Yeah, it could early. He's a 23-year-old coming into the big leagues for his first game pitching in the major leagues. There's going to be some nerves. The top of the Cubs lineup's outstanding. Kyle Tucker, what a great pickup that was. I can't believe the Astros got rid of that guy. I bet him 2 years in a row to win the MVP. I think he's that good. He's got a beautiful swing, and he's got a ton of power. And the wind's blowing out in Wrigley this year. He may hit 50 home runs. He's another guy to take a look at to win the home run because he's got great power, and he's been playing indoors. Again, the ball doesn't carry as well inside Houston when they've got the stadium closed, and it's closed the majority of the year.
Oh, man. Wrigley with the wind blowing out.
10-7.
Yeah, 10-7, 9-8. There we go. Right out of the gate on that one. All right, let's shift back. Alex, there's a few games that caught your attention total-wise for the NCAA tournament, and we want to get these before these move, of course. And let's start. Well, it's actually the exact same pod in Providence here with 2 games here. We start with the 5-12 matchup with McNeese State and Clemson here. Is Clemson like one of the more forgotten Elite 8 teams ever from a year ago?
Yes.
A step away from the Final Four, lose to Bama. Now they get McNeese, who last year McNeese was a team that a lot of people bet against Gonzaga, and they were never competitive against Gonzaga in a similar 12-5 spot. Alex's total currently sitting at 134.5 on this game here at the South Point. McNeese is a 7.5-point dog against Clemson. Again, a little bit of an injury concerns on Clemson's end. Primary ball handler out for this tournament.
Well, I like the under. I have not bet it yet, but I was looking at it at 134. So maybe we don't need to give it out yet. We can wait and it'll keep going up. But both of these teams play at a very slow pace, and they both play great transition defense. So I think that pace-wise, it's going to be tough to get to this number here. I made it a lot lower as well. So that is one that I just wanted to point out. Do you have your numbers?
Yeah, I agree with you. I made Clemson 8.5, 130.5, but as Jeff's mentioning, point guard, who is it?
Oh, I'll give you the name real quick, Kenny.
It's not playing.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. I exited it.
Chase
out of my
Hunter,
notes.
is he the point guard or is it Zachary? I don't think it's. It could be Zachary.
Yeah, that's where we're at here. Dylan Hunter's the one who's out. Actually, Dylan Hunter's the one that's out. So back of the rotation, ball handler there.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. I don't think he's worth a lot to the line. They've got, it's a team that really has a lot of guys that can pass the ball well. It's kind of like a Princeton offense where each player is a good passer. So I don't really have anything off there, but I would lean to the under as well. I made it 130. Didn't bet anything though there. And if this total goes up, did it go up? You said, Alex, it went up?
Went up a half point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not a whole lot. 134.5. I would probably be interested maybe at 135, 135.5.
Do you like McNeese as a...
This is just one of those where at first I'm like, when the bracket was revealed, I was like, I'm not doing this again. Clemson's a well-coached team. They do play slow. I don't know how McNeese will handle it, but then when you dive a little bit more on McNeese actually handled their non-con games against higher-end teams pretty well this year. They lost at Bama by 8. They lost on a neutral by 4 to Liberty, who's a tournament team as well. They lost by 3 in Tupelo to Mississippi State. So that's basically a home game. Paul Stone brought this up yesterday, and part of the reason he liked McNeese plus the points. And I think Paul's right there. This would probably be a take of points, but not a money line, if anything, on McNeese. But I'd love to see 8. That's all I'll say. I'd love to see a flat 8. I don't know if we'll get there by the time this game goes on Thursday. The other game in this pod, Alex, I'm curious both of your thoughts on this, because I do have thoughts on this game. Not the total, but the side on this one. High Point and Purdue. The total keeps rising. We're up to $1.53 now on this game, Alex.
Another one that I was looking at the under here between these two. Sidewise, I have nothing. I think that number is just right for Purdue. Whether or not they are, vulnerable to being upset here against High Point, that I'm not sure. I just made the number. High Point, very good at short range. And that is Purdue's weakness. So that makes me a little bit nervous with the under. I was curious what your thoughts were and what your total was.
Pace, there'll be no pace. It's going to be slow. Both these teams play slow, but both these teams are so much better offensively than they're in the defensive end. I think it could get there. I only made the total 149. I'm using my offense-defense numbers. Now, they both were far better offensively in their own gyms. They didn't score as well when they were on the road this year. So that's a little bit of a factor, but it scares me when teams are this good offensively. And even though High Point didn't score a lot on the road, they were 8-2 to the over. Purdue was 7-4 to the under in their road games this year. But man, both of these teams far, far better on the offensive end than they are defensively.
I'll stay off then.
This is a pace thing more so than anything, because High Point, so offensively speaking, High Point's the 25th best offense in the country, according to Ken Pom. Purdue's number 7. So we are dealing with a high-end offensive game here, one way or another. The pace is the issue. So Ken Pom, Kenny, I think and Alex, you'll enjoy this. Ken Pom has this projected for 65 possessions and 155 points. So that just shows how little Ken Pom's ratings thinks of these defenses. And that is the correct thing with High Point's defense. High Point's is 227th on defense. Yeah. That's brutal.
Yep.
I will say this, though. I'm already on High Point. I'd love to get a little more, but I think 8's going to basically where it peaks out now since I missed the initial 8.5s. And I'm going to sprinkle on the money line as well. My big concern here is the biggest advantage that Purdue has had in the past. How do they usually play? They would throw the ball into Edey, and they would beat the hell out of you inside.
Yeah.
As good as Trey Kaufman-Wren is, he's not Zach Edey. And High Point does have Jocelyn Bodo, who's a 7-footer, so he'll have a size advantage inside in this game. And a point that I got to give my friend Ross credit on this, Purdue has had to play differently this year than they've been accustomed to the last almost 8 years, where Purdue has had at least one 7-foot monster, whether it's Harms or Edey or whoever else it may have been through the years. Again, as good as Trey Kaufman-Wren is, he's 6'8". He's not a huge monster inside. He's just a good, solid, regular big. I think High Point can hang here. It's just a matter of getting enough stops, more so than anything. And again, when you have a 227 defense, you could give up 90 points and get blown out of this game because your defense fails here if your offense doesn't show up.
If they don't hit their shots, yeah, they get blown out. But they are a very good offensive team. I only made the game 6.5, and you guys know I love Purdue. I've got them at 65-1, and then bet them at 60-1 again this week, because I think they can make a run. But again, I think the line's a little too high. I'm looking at taking the High Point. I think I've talked myself into McNeese State, too, with Paul Stone, that looking at those games they've played, they already have experience against big-time basketball teams. And it's a lot of pressure this time of year, and these little guys come in and they play their best basketball. So taking the points, I would rather be on the dog anytime than the favorite.
Another Midwest game here, actually, Alex. The Bulldog battle on Thursday, Georgia and Gonzaga. You know, I'll just say this. So, Paul, I just, again, watched the preview for the rationale. This is another game that Paul liked. I'll just throw that out there, so at least look at it. The hook is gone. It's down from 6.5 to 6 on this game. Totals at 151.5 for this Bulldog battle. Of course, Gonzaga favored over Georgia, Alex.
So my question to you two was more about the over, and
Sure.
if we thought this was going to be very competitive, and whether that would hurt us or help us, right? If it was a kind of playoff style game here, but just the way that Gonzaga wants to run, I did make this higher than 151.5. So I was looking at the total and going over that. Wanted you guys' thoughts. Sidewise, I have nothing. I think that number is right, and I like Gonzaga to move on for sure in this round.
I only made them 5, and you guys know I love Gonzaga, so I think the number is just a little bit too high. I'm not betting it. I just don't think I have enough value. If you flashed me a 7 in an NCAA tournament game, I'd probably take the 7 here, and I do like the game over. Zags, they're one of the fastest teams in the country offensively. Georgia's has shown an average pace, but Mike White's an up-tempo coach, and I believe they were more, again, it's who you've played, and when you play somebody who runs, will you run with them? I do believe Georgia will run with the Zags. They will not back down. If there's an opportunity to fast break, Georgia's going to take it every single time. So, yeah, I like this one over. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think that I didn't fact check. A friend of mine said does the average totals for every game, and this is the highest average total of an NCAA tournament in over 30 years.
Hello.
There's 5 games with a total of over 150, which is the most in 30 years in the first round.
Wow.
Alabama, Arizona, teams like that really help.
Well, that Arizona Akron game has the highest total right now because Arizona wants to play fast, and Akron has to play fast if they're going to have a chance to stay in that game. Real quick, I just want to bring this up, and I got to shout out Jim Root and the Weavers, who did an amazing job on their NCAA tournament preview. They compared Gonzaga to Florida a little bit in the way of just the stylistic stuff, and Georgia beat Florida earlier this year. Now, that was probably the best game Georgia's played it was the best game Georgia's played all season. That even includes a win over St. John's earlier in the year. But I just wonder here, the last time we saw Gonzaga, they made 1 3-pointer against St. Mary's. I just wonder, for the sake of your totals, if you get you'll get some sort of positive regression just because they're not going to make 1 3 in a 40-minute game again. Any sort of positive regression probably helps here for that total to go over. And again, Georgia last time out and against Oklahoma, Georgia did not shoot particularly great early in that game, but they ended up shooting 36% from three. So see how it plays out. And that's, again, an interesting game. And for Houston will obviously they play the winner of this game. The difference in matchup between Gonzaga and Georgia is gigantic here for Houston. I think Houston just runs Georgia out. Runs in quotes, but we'll see how it plays out.
So remember, Mike White was at Florida.
Yes.
And after he took the Georgia job, he was 0-3 against
Finally
the Gators.
got through. Yeah.
And his team was ready and focused that day. So, you could compare Georgia and Florida. I think it's a really good comparison. Both are outstanding offensive teams that can play defense when they need to. Mark Few's a really good defensive coach. He's coached it forever, defense. But he loves to run and he loves to go up tempo. And sometimes your numbers don't look as good because of running. But again, I just go back, that Georgia game was a game that Mike White's team won for him. They were focused, ready to play. He'd been beaten down by his old school 3 times. He had something to prove, and his players proved it for him that day.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, whiteboards, trivia, question, answer, and much more when we get back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.
Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books, 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in. It is Sports by the Book. As we get the whiteboards all ready to go, we can go to the trivia question of today, and this was a good one. So since the first 4 was added in the 2011 tournament, 5 teams that have played in the first 4 have advanced to the Sweet 16, but only 2 have made the Final 4. Who were the 2 that made the Final 4?
That's amazing.
Do you know the answer?
Arizona State and Connecticut?
No. Alex, any idea? Mm-mm. So they happened a decade apart. One of them was in the first year of the first four. The other one was in the 2021 All in Indiana tournament. And it was VCU with Shaka Smart and company in 2011. Got all the way to the Final Four as an 11 seed. And UCLA, who, of course, then played one of the best Final Four games in recent memory against Gonzaga. That was the Jalen Suggs banker from 45 feet to knock them off. They were the only two to reach the Final Four as first four teams. The other three were, and I can't believe I didn't remember the 13 seed because this was a big deal when this happened. LaSalle, as a 13 seed, got through to the Sweet 16 before losing. I believe they lost to Wichita State in that round of 16 game. Tennessee is an 11 seed in 2014, and then Jim Boeheim and Syracuse in 2018 got to the Sweet 16 before all those teams fell. And that one, JR got it, but it took him a while. Took him a while. How many guesses did it take?
Well, first he read it wrong and went through the teams that made the Sweet 16.
Oh, okay.
And then
he
redid it.
But he got the 5 teams, though, right?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's still pretty darn good as it is. But JR, the Invitational continues yet again. All right, we can get the whiteboards going here on a Tuesday afternoon, day one of the NCAA tournament. We'll hit those whiteboards after this right here. We see it right here. By the way, real quick, our first to 15s are available here at the South Point. St. Francis plus 115, Alabama State minus 135, UNC minus 140, and San Diego State plus 120 at the openers here at the South Point. Let's go with some whiteboards, though, Alex.
All right, starting it off. So I did bet North Carolina tonight. I did lay the 4. I would suggest waiting for a better number in game. You could probably even wait till SDSU gets, if they do get a lead, jump in there. Or, like Jeff said, UNC money line tied up with a partner, American tomorrow, or whoever you like. And then one over here, UC Riverside, Santa Clara, over 156.
I'm playing that UNC game, and I did bet North Carolina -4 myself, but I'm going to ride this North Carolina train under. They did go under with Duke easily. That total was 155.5, and it was bet down to 153. So all 3 games in the ACC tournament went under. The Tar Heels just are not running like they were early in the season. We know San Diego State doesn't want to. 2 NITs, I'm going to look for overs. Georgia Tech, over 141.5. That's pretty close to what the opener was. The last one, Santa Clara, over 156. It's moved a little bit, but I still have a 6.5 point cushion there just because the pace there. Riverside, one of the fastest teams in the country. There's going to be at least 80 possessions in that game, and we're going over a number under 160 points.
Those NIT overs, again, they've just been hammered into oblivion. But there you go, Santa Clara, UC Riverside on both boards here today for Alex and Kenny. All right. So we got for you here on a Tuesday. We're back tomorrow in about 23 hours from now. We'll have reaction to the first 4 games tonight. We'll preview the first 4 games tomorrow. And, of course, we'll have to talk about some games that go early on Thursday. Again, our times are staying the same normal this week. So we'll be on. Games will be going on Thursday and Friday, but we'll preview everything the night before if they happen to start before we are on the air.
We'll have to get his Final Four and winner tomorrow.
Well, we'll get all of our Final Fours and winners, actually.
Yeah,
you'll get all of them. We'll be on all your bracket pools will be locked in by the time we're on the air on Thursday.
Yeah, very true. Okay.
So we'll get them all for that. Shout out to the crew, Vince, Jerry, Drew Dog, Ryan. Thank you guys as always. Kenny, Alex, good luck tonight as we always do here on this show. Everyone in the chat, thank you. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow right here, Sports by the Book, here at the South Point Studio.